On today's Where's Brian, I'll be working with staff in a division that makes it possible for you to get to work, get some exercise, or just enjoy the outdoors at Ames. Their efforts help facilitate the daily tasks of thousands of Ames residents. Do you know where I am today? I'm Brian Phillips. On most days, I work in an office for the Ames City Manager. Since starting here, I've learned a lot about the different jobs city employees have. Many of them you might see every day. Others work behind the scenes to provide quality programs and exceptional service to the community. And that's why I'm here, to experience the different jobs the City of Ames has to offer. You never know where I'll go next. The Transportation Division encompasses everything from airplanes to bicycles. Part of the Public Works Department, transportation planning is accomplished by the transportation planner and the traffic engineer. Traffic activities include managing signal systems, signs, and pavement markings. But before the streets get their signs and signals, a lot of planning is needed to provide efficient and effective travel throughout Ames. All right, well, I'm here with Rudy Castor. Rudy, give us a little bit of background. How long have you worked for the City of Ames?
Well, Brian, I've worked for the City of Ames since 2010 after I graduated from Iowa State, so just over 2 years now.
Okay, and you're the transportation planner?
Yes, that's correct.
So what does a transportation planner do?
Well, Brian, my job encompasses quite a bit of the transportation planning aspect here for the city. Part of it kind of involves staffing for the Ames Area MPO and providing staff support to the policy committee as well as the technical committee there. And also I work on our annual transportation documents that are required by the federal and state governments and providing those and updating and maintaining them every year, as well as working with the transportation data collection program that we have every year.
So why do we do transportation planning? What's the point of it?
Brian, it really is a good question that a lot of people don't understand. It's difficult to see down the road and plan ahead for 5, 10 years, 25 years down the road. And so it's a great tool to use and plan ahead efficiently and provide customer service to the citizens of Ames.
And this encompasses not only just where the streets are going to go, but what other aspects?
It covers all modes of transportation, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
It covers the airport, it covers freight transportation, as well as bicycles and pedestrians.
So pretty much anything that moves, you're working here to make sure that in the future we're going to have the sufficient capability to move people around.
That's right.
Okay. All right, what are some of the tools you use to do that?
Well, one that we're going to probably be showing you today here is we use a radar collector. It uses radar to collect traffic data such as speed, volumes, and vehicle length to collect data on local streets and other roadways in the city.
Okay. How frequently do we do something like that?
We do an annual program, but we can do them any year round, any time during the year, summer, spring, fall, winter.
So you mentioned MPO. What is the MPO?
Well, MPO stands for Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Mm-hmm.
The Ames Area MPO was created after the 2000 census when our population was above 50,000. The MPO kind of consists of an organization that comprises of the City of Ames, Iowa State University, as well as Boone and Story County and Cyride. They are an organization that kind of takes federal and state dollars and then applies them towards transportation projects or transit projects.
So it's just another component of the longer range planning that we do here at the City of Ames.
Correct, Brian.
Okay. All right, well, I'm ready to go if you want to lead the way.
All right, follow me.
All right, Rudy, so we're out here on the street and we're next to a utility pole. So I presume this is where we're going to be setting up.
That's correct, Brian. We'll be setting up a traffic radar counter right here.
Okay, and why did we pick this particular pole in this location?
Typically, there's a couple aspects that we look for when we do pick a telephone pole. We like to use wood telephone poles because they're just more easier to work with the cabling when we attach the pole itself. And then also we try to stay some distance away from driveways as well as other intersections that may influence kind of the traffic patterns. So we just kind of want to get the traffic flow on a specific street.
Okay. All right, so what is the equipment that we have here today?
Well, down here at my feet, we have the recorder itself as well as the box, and we'll be putting on the mount itself first. So here are the nuts and its nut driver.
Okay.
And I'll hold this up here and you will thread the two cables on the back side and attach those.
Okay.
And typically, Brian, when we are doing this, we like to go 45-degree angle from the roadway itself. So, and this is kind of an eyeballing adjustment there.
Okay, and what's the reasoning for the 45-degree angle?
Just per manufacturer specification. So
Okay.
we're just trying to follow it by the book so we get an accurate count out here. So as you can see, Brian, this is kind of a two-person operation here to begin
Yeah,
with.
definitely.
So typically, it doesn't take too long to set one of these counters up.
So how many of these counters do we use?
We have 5 currently, and we usually buy 1 to 2 a year. So we're increasing our arsenal, I guess you could say.
Okay.
But at any one time, we can have all 5 counters out, or as of today, we'll just be putting out 1 here on this street.
Okay. All right, so that was the top, and now
Yep.
we got to do the bottom one.
Can do that.
Is that tight enough up there?
That's tight enough,
Okay.
Brian.
So these particular types of counters are a little different than some other counters that I've seen around town. Could you describe those for us?
Yes, Brian. In the past, the radar counters are actually fairly new. We've only had these for probably 2 years now. And in the past, we used what are called tube counters, where they actually use a rubber tube, a little smaller than a garden hose, and then those are strung across the street, and you use 2 of those typically, and you could possibly use more if depending on your count configuration. But those are pneumatics, so when a car drove over each tube, it would register speed and time across, so it could get speed and distance, and it would use that to record the traffic data. So, and those are a little more dangerous, so that's why we're happy to use these radar counters, so you're not in the roadway putting those down and dodging traffic.
Okay, so this is a little safer to be putting up since you don't have to be out there in the roadway.
Exactly,
Okay.
safer for us and for the drivers.
Okay, great. All right, well, is this mounted the way that we need it?
Yep, that's correct, Brian. So
Okay.
then we can take the recorder itself, and we can just set it right up there on the mount, and it just sets right in there.
Okay. Okay, so now that we've got this mounted, what's the next step?
Well, Brian, we have to take 3 measurements, and then we're ready to use the PDA to set the recorder up itself.
Okay, I'm ready to help you make those measurements then.
So Brian, if you'll hold this end of the tape against the pole,
Okay.
I'll walk out and get our 2 measurements for approaching and receding lanes of traffic. And I'm looking at 14 feet there and 25 feet there.
So this is measuring how far away the different lanes of traffic are so the device knows which one is which when a car drives by?
Exactly, Brian.
Okay. There you go. So what's next after that?
After that, we use the PDA itself to enter those 2 measurements, as well as the measurement of the height of the box itself, which is a rough estimate. I'm roughly 6'3", so I'd say it's about 6'3" off of the ground.
Okay. So we got to open the box up.
Yep, we open it up here on the side,
Okay.
and we can take a look at the recorder itself.
So what do we got going on inside here?
Well, Brian, looking in the box here, you can see the recorder itself, and then there's the battery there that charges the recorder.
Okay.
And so now we're going to use our PDA to set up this recorder.
Okay.
So you just plug it in here, and then plug into the PDA itself. And then turn on the recorder.
How long does the battery last in one of these?
Typically, Brian, the battery lasts 7 days.
Okay.
And so if a count goes beyond a week, then we'll come out, replace the battery, and then it can go on as long as we need to have a count. But typically 1 week to 2 weeks is the count's length.
Okay.
So now that we have it plugged in, Brian, using that data or those measurements that we did for the approaching lane and receding lane, we go into the program here for the counter and we set it up.
Okay.
It's just connecting to the recorder, and it asks me if I want to download some previous data, and then click setup. Typically we do a per vehicle configuration, and then there's a site code in there that we can do, and typically there's a a methodology behind that in the office that we do for numbering the site. So we go to change, and here's your approach lane and recede lane lengths. And we said those were 14 feet for approach, 25 for recede.
Okay.
Installation height, like I said before, I'm roughly about 6'3", and that's about 6'3" off the ground.
Okay.
And then it gives you a required angle head. The recorder itself, the angle can be changed.
Okay.
And it says about 80 degrees. So if you just want to go on there and just kind of give it a slight adjustment down. Yep, there you go.
Right about there.
That looks great.
So that way it's pointing in the right direction to make sure to pick up the vehicles that are
Correct.
traveling.
We don't want to be shooting too far up or too far down into the roadway.
Okay. So how sensitive is this device? Can it pick up things like bicycles or stuff like that?
They actually do have radar recorders that are made for bicycle recording. So yes, I believe this will pick up radar or radar signatures for bicyclists, but being that we put in the measurements for the approach lane and receding lane, it will ignore those, I guess.
Oh, okay. How do you determine where you need to place recorders?
Requests can be made by the public themselves. Residential streets, we've had that where citizens have come in and requested a recorder, or they've had issues with speeding or a lot of traffic volume out there. They may be inquiring about putting out a stop sign or something like that.
Okay.
As well as other businesses and other entities can request them as well.
Okay. Now you mentioned you would use information like this in maybe helping you figure out if a stop sign were needed. What are some of the other things that you look at when you're trying to figure out what types of signals or signs need to go in certain places?
Well, typically we look at the volume of the traffic on the street, and based on that, how many AADT, which is average annual daily traffic, based on that, we can get a fix on how much traffic that the street is having per a daily basis. And then that kind of qualifies, there's certain warrants that justify traffic signals and stop signs.
Okay, so there's a whole set of guidelines out there that determine whether or not a signal or a sign might help in a particular situation.
That's correct, Brian.
Okay, all right, interesting to know.
Yep.
So what's next here for the recorder that we set up?
And now that we have it set up, we just unplug our PDA.
Okay.
And now that the recorder's set up, we just close it up, and then we padlock it all up so that make sure that it doesn't walk away.
Okay.
And then that's about it. We'll come back in a week to 2 weeks, and we'll collect the data and take the recorder down.
Okay. Well, do we want to lock it up then?
Yep.
So we've got a chain and some padlocks.
So I'll fish this chain through the backside if you want to grab it over there.
Okay. Got it.
And then we'll go around the backside of the pole. Padlock that side.
Okay.
You got that?
Yep.
And then we'll take these and we'll padlock the front box closed.
Okay.
There's one for that. There's one for the top one. And then there's one for the bottom side right there. There's one.
Okay. There we go.
Awesome.
All right.
And that's it. We'll come back in a week to 2 weeks and we'll collect the data and take it down.
All right. Well, this has been really informative. Thanks for your help today, Rudy.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Brian,
I'll
always
see
a pleasure.
you later. Yep. Well, today we got to see just one of the many things that goes into keeping traffic moving here in Ames. Be sure to tune in for the next Where's Brian, because you'll never know where I'll go next. I'll see you later. Yep.
I'm like, wait, walk into the street?
Oh, you can just stand by the box for a while. I don't know.